30 plus years, I've seen every type of child grow up.
Instead of giving me what I wanted, she gave me what I needed, which was truth.
Don't let emotions win. Let truth win.
Do your very best, and you should have a lot of fun while you do it. And the better you get at something, the more fun you're going to have at something.
You moms and dads are wired with everything you need to be a parent to a great kid. Welcome to Parenting Great Kids. This is episode number 29, Being a Hero Dad. I'm your host, Dr. Meg Meeker. Today, I'm talking with my friend and quarterback for the LA Chargers, Philip Rivers. Philip is not only a star on the football field, but he's a husband, a father of 8 kids, and he is passionate about being a dad. Also in this episode, I'll be featuring a listener question about getting kids to clean up after themselves. As always, I'll share my points to ponder so that you can start using them right away. And parents, as a reminder, don't just download episodes, click subscribe. When you do that, you're joining my parenting revolution, and every new episode will automatically show up in your subscribed list. You won't regret it. And we'd love for you to write us a review on iTunes and let us know what you think about the podcast. Not only are we on iTunes, but the Parenting Great Kids podcast is also now available in the Google Play Store and on Stitcher. So no matter where you get your podcasts, subscribe today and don't miss a single episode. Friends, it's finally here. My new book, Hero, Being the Strong Father Your Children Need, is now available for purchase. You've heard me talking about it for a while, and I'm so happy to tell you that you can get your copy now at HeroDadBook.com. Dads, whether you know it or not, you are the center of your child's life, and that's exactly what this book is all about. Moms, this is a great book for your husbands, and husbands, this is a great book for you. Hero is a book for all dads, whether they're married, divorced, widowed, or stepdads. All that matters is understanding that your children need and want you. And if you want what is best for you and your children, then you need this book. When you visit HeroDadBook.com, you'll also find a variety of Hero gift bundles, some with a coffee mug, a journal, and even a Hero t-shirt. We created these special gifts to serve as reminders for you, Dad, to choose to be the hero in your child's life every day. And they also make great Father's Day gifts or birthday gifts. Visit HeroDadBook.com to learn more and order your copy today. So parents, thanks for listening. This is episode number 29. Stay with us. Now on to my points to ponder. 1. Children define hero very differently than most men do. A child sees his father as a hero when he pays attention to him, when he lives with integrity, when he talks up to him rather than down to him. Fathers need to learn to see themselves through their children's eyes, because then and only then will they be able to parent more effectively. One of the things that I feel very passionate about is this. As a pediatrician who's listened to thousands of kids, I know how kids perceive their parents, and particularly I know how kids view their fathers. And after listening to kids and then talking to fathers, I know that there's an enormous disconnect there. Fathers see themselves as one thing, but their child sees them as another thing completely differently. If I ask most fathers if they feel like a hero, they'd say, no, of course not. I've never done anything brave. I've never done anything extraordinary. But if you ask a child who his hero is, that child will most likely say his dad. Because to a small 8-year-old boy or 10-year-old girl, a father is larger than life. So men, you need to understand that children define hero very differently than you do. 2, never take time with family for granted. I'm anxious for you to listen to my conversation with Philip Rivers, because this is something that he's very passionate about, spending time with family. You know, many men have their identity tied up in their work, and this is very normal. It's hard for men not to have a large part of their identity tied up in their work, because work takes up a lot of their time. But remember that being a father brings men long-term joy. As many people said, you know, your work won't sit at your bedside when you're uttering your last words, but your children will be there. A wife will be there. Many loved ones will be there. And we need to remember that over the long haul, it's being a father that gives men joy, that perhaps prolongs their life, gives them better health, and makes them feel good about being on earth. When you make a conscious effort to invest in family, dads, the payoff is tremendous. And 3, whatever you do with your children is magnified. Whatever you do, your children will magnify the time they spend with you. Because you are larger than life in your children's eyes, whatever you do seems bigger to them than it does for you. For instance, if you take your children to the park once a month for several months, years later they will look back on that time and feel that you took them 3 or 4 times per month. I have often heard adults describe many things that they did with their fathers throughout their summers, and then when they actually asked their dads how many times they went on family vacation during the summer, when they thought they went 3 times a summer, the fathers would say, we really only went on a family vacation once every 3 years. That's because in a child's eyes, time with you becomes bigger. It's magnified. It means so much to them that they double it or triple it in their minds. So if you spend time with your kids, your children will grow up to tell their friends that they spend a lot more time with you than they actually did. And isn't that wonderful to know? They not only not forget the time they had with you, but they think that that time lasted a lot more and was much more frequent. The time you invest with your children has a far bigger impact on them than it does on you. So dads, never forget that. I want you now to listen in on a conversation I had with Philip Rivers about being a hero dad. I know you're going to love this conversation. Today, I'm talking with my friend and quarterback for the LA Chargers, Philip Rivers. Philip is not only a star on the football field, but he's a husband, a father of 8 kids, and he is passionate about being a dad. I appreciate your time. I don't want to take up a whole lot. I know this is precious family time for you, Philip. You, of course, have played with the NFL for many years, over 10 years. Is that right?
Yeah, this will be year 14 coming up.
Wow. Now, Philip, are you moved? Are you in LA yet?
We are not. We're actually in the process of figuring out where our facility is about an hour and 15 minutes from where we live in San Diego.
Now, do you like your job or love your job?
I actually am thankful that I love it. I really do. I love to play the game, and I enjoy the scheme of the game, and I love the X's and O's, and I like to compete. Mostly I love to compete, but I think more than that, I think the life lessons that come with the sport are really what I think I appreciate most, and why I have such a passion for it is because I feel like all the qualities needed to be a good football player, the same qualities needed to be a good husband, need to be a good dad, need to be a good man in my faith. So I think it's meant way more to me than touchdowns and X's and O's, and I think that's why it's so special to me.
You know, it's interesting. I have heard a number of the other players say that as well. So we'll just touch down on that for a second. What life lessons do you learn in football that you apply to being a dad?
Well, gosh, I think if I just rattle them off the top of my head, I think about the discipline you have to be a successful quarterback, a successful player. You got to have discipline as a husband, as a father, and then you got to be able to discipline your children. I think you have to be dedicated and committed, just like on the football field and in your craft. You got to be dedicated and committed to your family and your wife and your children. I think you have to be able to sacrifice. You sacrifice for your teammates, and you got to be able to sacrifice for your wife and your children. I think you got to be tough, obviously, as a football player, but I think you got to be tough as a family man and as a man of faith and as a husband and a father. So those are the couple of the things that come to mind. You got to be resilient. You know, there's hard days. There's hard days at work. There's days you lose that you wanted to win. And just like at home, there's days that are hard days. Some days are so smooth, and you got to be able to get back up again and keep on plugging along. So those are some of the first few that come to mind.
You know, that's wonderful to hear you talk about that. Now, Philip, are you that way by nature, or is that something you've learned along the way in your career and in your family?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, I feel very thankful and blessed that I feel like God did make me to do the job I'm doing and to be a husband and a father, but I am very thankful for my own parents and teaching me some of those same lessons. My dad was actually my high school football coach. So wow. I grew up around the sport as I was his ball boy and his water boy ever since I was, big enough to carry the water bottles. So I got to watch him teach and the lessons that we learned on the football field and the lessons he taught me at home and my mom as well. So I feel very thankful that I had two loving parents that raised me.
You know, fathers have an extraordinary influence. Whether you have a good dad or whether you have a bad dad or whether you have an absent dad, they have a profound influence on how you parent your own kids. And if you're fortunate enough to have a dad who is a strong dad, you can bring all of that strength and that goodness into your parenting. What are some of the things that you learned from your father that you emulate as a father with your own kids?
Well, I think anytime I've gotten to answer this question, it's an answer that it's not vague, but in a sense it encapsulates a lot for me, at least. And I'll try to paint the picture the best I can. But if I could sum it up from my dad, it was, if you're going to do something, do it all the way. From making the bed, tuck the corners in on the sheets. If you're mowing the grass, don't mow one extra strip before you have to dump the bag of grass, just because you want to get finished. I mean, he just said, if you're going to do something, do it right. And I think it means more to me, obviously, than I can portray in an answer. But that was the biggest thing I took from him, among many other things, of how to treat people and from being on time to all those other things that are somewhat small. But that one kind of encapsulated the whole thing for me.
But those are the important things. The things that a parent might think are small, they're huge because they change who you become. That's so important. So do you work with your own kids to teach them the same thing? Listen, kids, I expect that you do the jobs that you're going to do very well. Do your kids have chores around the house?
Yes, they do. And I think, and we definitely do. And I think with having 8 children, they've learned, at least the older girls have learned, and they've had to be very selfless and be very unselfish and pitch in and help their mom and help me and go help your little sister. She needs help, finding her pull-up, to help her with her jammies, to whatever it may be. But
yes, right.
But we really do. I mean, a lot of things come to mind when you ask me that. I think ultimately we want to teach them to know, love, and serve God as a family of faith. That's the ultimate that we want to teach them. But then I think of a lot of things come to my mind when you say that. We want them to be humble. I mean, I think the virtue of humility is very important, but at the same time, I want them to be, very confident. I can remember doing math lessons with my girls. We homeschooled for a while and then, learning math facts, and they weren't quite sure if they wanted to say it because they might be wrong. And I was like, just say it. If you say 9 and it was supposed to be 8, that's okay, but you thought it was 9, so say it, go for it.
Yeah.
So humble but confident. I mean, we want them to be resilient. And to always persevere and to never give up. We have a little phrase we say around our family, and actually a family friend that's a priest gave it to us, and it's a Latin phrase, nunc cepi. Now, I say it the Alabama way. I don't quite say it the Latin way, but nunc cepi, NUNCCOEPI, and it means now I begin, but it's kind of never ending, again and again and again. So that's kind of the thing we use to teach that perseverance and that resilience. Hey, you made a bad grade, well, nunc cepi. Hey, you forgot to make your bed, nunc cepi. Hey, you forgot your night prayers, well, nunc cepi. Start again tomorrow. Don't give up. It's not like the month is lost. So that comes to mind. I know I'm rambling. This is how I do my football interviews, so I tend to just take one question and go for a long way. But
it's wonderful. I mean, you're an interviewer's dream. That nunc cepi is very much like Winston Churchill's never, never, never give up. It is. Start and start and start and start. And I love that. Now, what are some of your biggest struggles as a dad? I mean, I know you're on the road a lot, and you probably spend a considerable amount of time away from your kids. But other than time, what are some of the biggest struggles for you as a father with your 8 kids?
Well, I think, thankfully, we are on the road some, but not as much as one may think. We have training camp, which is 3 or 4 weeks long, and that's when we're away the most. But Tiffany does a great job of trying, and I try my hardest too, to get us together and try to see each other almost every day, even if it's for 15 minutes, and to say hey or whatever. And then we obviously, on our road games, it's weekends. So it's about 8 weekends a year that we're gone, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's not terrible as compared to some people's professions that are on the road a ton. But struggles, I think the biggest thing, really, I don't know if I call it a struggle, but maybe a challenge is with 8 children is trying to be able to look at each one of them in the eye often. And spend that one-on-one time with them the best you can. For example, the other day, the 2 boys wanted me to throw football with them. The 7-year-old wanted me to help her read her book. The oldest one was, here and here, one of them was getting in the pool, and Tiffany was trying to cook supper, and the baby needed the diaper change. It was kind of like
chaos.
But it was beautiful. It was awesome. I was like, look at this. It's a little bit crazy on the outside looking in, but it was just joy in the house, and everybody was happy. And everything was okay, and Tiffany and I are a great team. I'm so thankful for her. But I think not so much struggles, but just the challenges of that. And then I think as a young dad, as I've grown, I still like to consider myself a young dad at 35, but grown to learn to understand that every child is different. Every one of them is different. They don't all respond the same way. They don't all learn the same way. They don't all react the same way to voice inflection. If you're getting a point across or whatever, they're all different. And I think I've grown to learn that. At first you think, everybody's just like me, or everybody's going to be just like us. And then you learn that they all grow differently, which is awesome. And that's something I've gotten better with time.
It's hard because you want to spend equal time. You want to put the same amount of parenting effort into each child. But the truth of the matter is some kids require more than others. You've got a squeaky wheel, and then you've got the easygoing kid who just is sort of going along with things. As you sit and talk about the sounds and the chaos of 8 kids in the home and those joyful days, it's hard to imagine that there will be a day where you will want that back because your home will be too quiet. And, it's wonderful. It sounds to me as though you can really engage the moment and enjoy the moment with all of your kids. How do you and Tiffany work together to parent well? Because I'm sure there's some conflict. She wants to discipline one way, you discipline another way. How do you specifically support one another in your parenting?
Well, I think as I've kind of mentioned, but I don't want to slight in the slightest, Tiffany's awesome. I couldn't obviously do it without her. She's a great wife and great mother, so very thankful for her. But, I think first off, the foundation of our relationship was built on our faith, the very first. And then from there, it was built on friendship. So we really are best friends. So I think our faith and our friendship allows us, we have that bond, and that we're a team together that really makes us at least feel like we can handle anything. Now that doesn't, I'd never want to portray that as, y'all just have this perfect little marriage with never any bumps in the road. We're real people that have real days, and some days are better than others. But I think built on that is key. And her and I both would tell you the same thing. It's selfless and sacrifice for one another. We don't all do that perfect. Neither of us do that perfectly, but try to think, what does Tiffany need right now that I can help her in this moment? And she thinks that of me. And then, you look up on those days like that, and everybody's tucked in and asleep, and we just kind of smile and go, what a day. But we got it all done. Like we got it, we got it all done. And, it was told to me once too, and maybe it's kind of a normal thing for you to, over all the years and things you've done in this field, but, the dad is the head of the family and the mom is the heart, and I think that's kind of the way we flow. I'm the one that'll tell my son, get up, you're all right. Get up, you're fine. You're not hurt. Get up. And she'll be the one to say, oh, come here, bud. Are you okay? It's that we lean on each other in that way. And obviously we're still growing as parents and as people, but we're a good team. I'm very thankful.
But that's a wonderful complimenting of it. The head and the heart. And talk to me a little bit, if you would, about your faith and how your faith structures your family, and how you as the head of the home and she's the heart of the home, and you both have a strong love for God. How do you transmit that to your kids? How do you teach your kids that?
that is first for us is our faith. And I always, when I've done different men's conferences and spoken to young men and different groups, and I kind of title my talks Faith, Family, and Football. And so that's kind of in that order, because everybody sees me as a football player, and I do love to play football, but it honestly is third. It falls in line third. But so it impacts our parenting, no question. I think we want to instill in them those virtues, some of those I touched on before, those virtues and those qualities that are practiced in our faith, and instill that in them from both teaching them the faith where they're growing up, and Tiffany and I are both Catholic, from teaching them our Catholic faith, but just how to live a virtuous life. And I think too, for us, that they see mom and dad trying to do their best. And I didn't mention earlier in the qualities, but honesty is very big. I want them to be honest people, and I think as they get older, that's something I've found out, is it's great for me to be honest with them, where dad wasn't good right here. I'm trying to be better at this. I'm trying to be better at that. So they see us as real people striving to grow in our faith. And I think it's just honesty is something that comes up to me. And going back to one of those other qualities is that, and we teach them this in regards to the faith, is that everything matters. That's kind of another phrase. If you ask my oldest daughter, give me two phrases that your dad, she would say Nuke Champion. She would say everything matters, because everything matters, from going back to what my dad, that goes all the way back to, if you're going to do it all the way from how you brush your teeth and comb your hair in the morning, to tying your shoes, to, everything. I just want them to believe that everything matters. You do it for, again, in wherever your faith journey is, for me, it's you do everything for the glory of God, or it could be you do it because you want to be the best student you can be, or you want to be whatever it is. I just believe that applies, that everything does matter.
Parents, I hope you're enjoying my conversation with Philip Rivers. We need to take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Great spellers come from great readers. That's why Kindle is the proud presenting sponsor of the 2017 Scripps National Spelling Bee. A Kindle e-reader is a great way to encourage a child's emerging love for reading, especially as they begin to read chapter books independently. The lightweight Kindle e-reader is perfect for young readers because they can bring thousands of books with them wherever they go without weighing down their backpack. Plus, a single-purpose Kindle e-reader is designed for reading only, which means no videos, no games, no apps, no distractions. Kindle also supports comprehension and vocabulary development by automatically creating flashcards of words looked up on the device for future review, and incorporating simple definitions in the margins above difficult words. And with Kindle Free Time, parents can create personalized profiles for kids and give them access to titles from their own collection of books. Then, parents get sent a progress report to keep them updated on their child's reading habits. Learn more about the ways Kindle inspires a child's love of reading by visiting Amazon.com/Kindle for Kids. And make sure to tune in to next week's Scripps National Spelling Bee, presented by Kindle, Thursday, June 1st at 8 p.m. on ESPN. Friends, everyone has a family member who tells the best stories, be they anecdotes from their childhood or tales passed down for generations. These are timeless family treasures, and now they're easier than ever to preserve thanks to STORYWORTH. STORYWORTH safeguards your family's treasured narratives so that future generations can enjoy them, and brings families together as they get to know each other better. Simply purchase a subscription for someone you love, and each week, STORYWORTH sends an email with a question about their life. They reply with their story, either via phone or email. Then, after a year, their stories are bound into a beautiful keepsake book and sent to you. All stories are private and only shared with family that you choose. It's a great way to bridge geographic distance between families, or simply learn more about those you love. Plus, it makes the perfect gift for Mother's or Father's Days. And friends, I want to tell you, making a keepsake of your family history is very important for you to pass on to your children and your grandkids. I'm going to do it with my grandkids. Friends, I'm excited to offer my podcast listeners $20 off your STORYWORTH subscription. Just visit STORYWORTH.com/Meg to learn more. That's STORYWORTH.com/Meg. One of the things that I've seen is that children who have a good relationship with their dad are much more likely to relate to God the Father more easily. And the converse is true, that children who've had a rough relationship with their dad are closed off to God because the idea of God the Father is offensive. It's hurtful to them. And really, the father is one of the doorways to God, because you're the first man to teach them about male love. You're the first man to teach your kids about if a man can be trusted, if he's kind, if he's comforting, if he's reliable, if he's, loving, whatever it is. And if they have positive experiences, as I'm sure your kids do, then you sort of set a template for how they're going to relate to men for the rest of their lives, particularly the girls. And that's extremely important. And that relationship also extends to their relationship with God. And I really think there's so many women out there and men out there who really want nothing to do with God because they feel wounded from their father. So the service that you're providing to your children by being a godly man and having a strong faith is going to go on for years and years and years and years, through your children and their love for the Lord. And that's just a beautiful thing to see. Now, have you in your faith been able to have an influence on your friends or your peers at all, do you think?
Well, I would like to think so. There's been some, obviously, one-on-one conversations that you may have with guys over the years. I always say a Hail Mary and cross myself with a sign of the cross before every drive, and not that I'm doing that for TV, but who knows who's watching and who that may impact.
Right.
And then I think just when Tiffany and 8 children show up at practice and they see, wow, you have 8 children, and then it can be intriguing. And I think you're always sowing. Sometimes you see the fruit from it, and sometimes you don't. But I just try to always, again, do my best, be that example. And again, going back to the never give up. One of my favorite Bible verses is Galatians 6:9. That never become weary in doing good, because at the proper time, if you don't give up, you'll reap your harvest. So and that's something that goes in line with Nuke Cheppy and Everything Matters and never giving up. And so that's something that I hope that people do see. I hope that people see me as a man of faith and a good husband and a good father. And then obviously passing that on to my children is first and foremost. I'm kind of telling stories now, but I had a man tell me, it was years ago at a men's conference, that said, our job is to get to heaven and to bring as many people with us as possible. And so I think that starts with the 9 people under my roof,
Exactly.
So that's where it starts for me. And then, yes, hopefully there have been seeds planted that one day in due time will bear fruit.
What do you see yourself doing after football?
Well, I think I'm going to follow my dad's footsteps, although my dad didn't have an NFL career, but I think I want to be a high school coach. The skill level and the scheme of an NFL team is exciting, college and the recruiting and trying to, those 18 to 22-year-old boys is kind of exciting. But I think for me, it's that high school level, that 15 to 18-year-old young man can be very impressionable. And I just know from my experience with my own dad, but I know that my dad never won a state championship in high school, but he would tell you that his state championship, his trophies are in his desk drawer from all the letters he's gotten over the 30-something years he coached, of guys that say, Coach Rivers, I played for you in 1984 and I'm now married and I live in, somewhere, and I have 3 children. I just want you to know those 3 years were very meaningful for me, and I learned a lot. I want to be able to impact those young men, teach them how to be young men, and then we can still compete and enjoy the football aspect of it, but hopefully help groom them before they head off to college or wherever their next step may be.
And it's so important, Philip, because there's so many young men out there who have fathers that are gone, or fathers that have left or abandoned them, or they're just never around. And I look around and my heart aches for the young men. I think it's hard on the girls, it's hard on the daughters, but daughters at least can relate to their mothers. But I think that a boy needs a man to become a man. He needs to see it. He needs to imitate him. He needs to respect him. He needs to have a model that he can visually see so that he can just emulate him. And I think that doing that kind of work is so wonderful if you could do that. And I think so many young boys out there today need so much help. If you were going to talk to some young men, some 25, 26, 27-year-old dads who are first-time dads, And after you of course have 8 kids and you've been doing this a while here, being a dad, what are some of the things that you would want to tell them, words of advice, a couple words of advice that you would give younger dads? Let's see. Yeah, gosh. I think the first thing with your children is to spend time with them. I think that's the biggest thing that we can give them is our time. And I think it's so many, and yes, we have long days, and I know dads work long hours and they're tired at the end of the day, and we have those days where we really do need to just take a deep breath. But I think spending time with our children the best we can and be engaged with them. They want our time. I think I mentioned earlier, but patience with the younger ones, and I've gotten better and better at that. Especially when they start. Let's say you have an 8-year-old and you also have a 5-year-old, where it's natural to think that the 5-year-old should be, come on, keep up with the 8-year-old, you know? Yeah. And so I think being patient, realizing, no, maybe he's just 5, maybe she's just 3. She's not ready to be like the 6 and 7-year-old yet. And really time flies. I think just enjoy them. Enjoy those days that you hear feet running down the hall and you hear those little cries, because gosh, it seems like yesterday my oldest was born and now she's going to be a freshman in high school. So I know it goes so fast. The other thing that I think with boys too, that I'm finding with my older son, is now that he's 9 years old, and of course I'm still playing football, which is different. You know, I'm still actually playing. So is that balance of being a friend and a dad. I think that's so critical, and it's hard. It's hard for me too sometimes, because I enjoy just being his buddy and playing in the yard, but there has to be that balance and that distinction of that. I think that's very critical, not to ever really let it turn into where he just sees you as a buddy. I think it needs to always be the line drawn, and I already said that every child is different. And lastly, and I think I would say to date your wives. You have to date your wife. Yeah, you have to. You know what? You are far too nice to be playing in the NFL. Yeah. Oh, my heavens. You're right. You're absolutely right, though. Yeah. I hope okay, men, do you hear what Philip Rivers is saying? Date your wives. Okay, I interrupted you. Please continue. How do you date Tiffany?
Well, we try our hardest, and we never can possibly do this, but we try once a week. And obviously during the football season, that's almost impossible. But it's really more for us. It's not about going to an elaborate dinner or going to, we used to always want to go to the movie. And then as we've grown, we're like, we don't want to sit beside each other for 2 hours and not speak. We want to go somewhere where we can talk and conversate. Right. So it's usually something very simple that we can grab a bite to eat and just enjoy being around one another and conversate. And I really do think that's critical, because going way back to earlier in the interview when you asked me that of how we support one another, I think that allows us, that time that we are able to spend together allows us to be better parents. And I certainly by no means, I always say this at those men's conferences, I by no means want to come across as we have it all figured out and we just have this little perfect old marriage and household, because I want to come across as a real person that people can, hopefully I can, again, you sow a few seeds that can help, but that we have the daily struggles like any family. I think sometimes, you see NFL players and you think, oh man, it must just be the life. And I am very thankful, because we are very, very blessed, but we have the same daily challenges that any family does. But I am very thankful to feel like we kind of got everything kind of somewhat under control, but always room to grow and always, again, trying to begin again each and every day and do better.
I have a question about your 14-year-old daughter. Are you going to let her date?
Gosh, I need to call my wife in to help me right now. I guess the hard part is with your oldest is you figure it out for the first time. You
do, and you make all your mistakes on that oldest. Yeah.
I know. I think one thing that Tiff and I do both agree on is when it comes to that and a phone or what all of those things is, it's not just that, well, it's 14 at this and it's 16 at that, and it's, having those hard things, because again, every child's different. So I'm not trying to avoid the question. That is something that we talk about it and we go, I don't know. And Tiffany and I were married. I was 19. She was 18. So she's only 4 years away. She's only 4 years away.
That's scary, isn't it? My.
It is so crazy to think about. But I don't know. I don't know I don't really know exactly how we're going to handle that. A lot of the interaction, whether it's group dating or whether it's bring whoever you want here to our home. We will play games. We will laugh. We will have fun. But I want it to be in an environment where, it's safe and that she can remain pure. And I know, again, she and all of anyone, they're going to have those chances to make all those decisions on their own. But at the same time, you want to do the best you can as a parent to protect that. And so that's kind of where we stand on it right now. We haven't quite gotten there yet, and she hasn't come up. So
well, and I was kind of being funny with you because I'm thinking of you, this big strapping man, and seeing some pimply faced boy coming to the door and wanting to date your daughter. I would not want to be him. One of the things that I always tell dads, I'm not big on kids dating, just because I think in general not a lot of great things come from early dating. Just a lot of broken hearts and bad decisions and pain that kids aren't really ready to handle. But one of the things I always encourage dads, that before any boy drives your daughter in his car away from your home, you look him in the eye and you shake his hand very firmly. And you don't even need to open your mouth. And I'll guarantee you that young boy will mind his P's and Q's. And I think the message that girls love to have from their dad is that I am here and I'm behind you. And if this guy tries anything or acts untoward towards you, he has to answer to me. And it makes, my dad did that with me. And at the time I hated it, but it makes you feel so loved. And I know that would probably come instinctively to you, because I'm sure you're going to be a very protective father, and it's wonderful. But I bet you have fun with all your kids. We're running out of time. You've been very gracious with your time. And one question I love to ask professional athletes is, if you could have the choice between going to a Super Bowl game where you knew you were going to be MVP and you knew you were going to win, or you could go to the birth of your child because they were happening at the same time, what would you choose?
Well, there's a lot of hypotheticals there. A lot of
I know, but that's my prerogative.
I know it. I honestly would tell you that I think my wife and I know my oldest couple girls would look at me and go, "Dad, you go to the Super Bowl." That's what they would tell me. My wife would tell me that. I think they would tell me that, but I really don't. I think we've had a couple in the last 2 years where I was on the road and it's like, gosh, I'm in Jacksonville and it's right at the due date, and we left on a Friday, and if I get stuck in Jacksonville, I'm just stuck in Jacksonville. And it was something that I think Tiffany and I both had to come to peace with, that if that happens, it happens, but certainly hope it doesn't. On the small chance that I'm gone over that 3 to 5 hour period or that window. So I don't really know what decision. I think we would both pray about it and be at peace either way. But I think, again, it goes back to that sacrifice and selfless for one another. I would tell Tiffany, I need to be there. I can't leave you there. I have to be there. And she would say, you have to go play in that game. You've been dreaming of playing the Super Bowl your whole life. So I think most importantly, while the birth is as special as it gets, and I'm thankful I've been there for all 8 of ours, is what kind of dad are you going to be the 18 years and on after that, following that birth is certainly more important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and one of the things I think that a lot of men will look at men like you, and there's a lot of envy, and boy, I wish I had your life, and gee, you've got it all together. But one of the things I think it's important for men to realize is the great joy that you experience in watching the birth of your child can rival the great joy that you would feel in being the MVP in a Super Bowl win. And that the deep joys any man can have, it's really kind of a matter of choice. And so, because from my perspective, of course, and being a kid advocate and loving kids, I think that to me, there's no greater joy. And to watch good men be great dads, I'm just so grateful when they work so hard. So, well, you are an inspiration, Philip, and I hope that many dads who listen have maybe seen a side of you that they've not seen before. Philip the dad, who is not just a superstar, but, a superstar at home, and how very important it is to be that good man at home and to leave a legacy for your kids, and to not be bashful about expressing your faith and your love for God in your home and to your friends. And I know that God will bless you for being faithful to Him in your role as a dad.
Well, thank you very much for having me. And I hope so too. Those who have seen me play know that I play with a great deal of passion and a great deal of love for my teammates and for the game. And I really hope that it's come across that I really like to parent and treat my role as a husband the very same way. And certainly the faith has a lot to do with that. It's been
absolutely.
It's a daily. Again, it goes back to the Nunc Chepi for me. It's you're always beginning again and beginning again. And I'm very thankful and blessed that I have a beautiful wife and 8 awesome children, and we get to take on the challenges that come our way each day.
Well, blessings to you, my friend. This has been a pure delight. Thank Tiffany for giving us this time with you away from your family. She's very patient in letting us steal you away. So blessings to you, and thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for all the good work you're doing.
All right, parents, let's get social. I want to hear from you and interact with you. You can connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Meg Meeker MD. Or if you have a question, send it to askmeg@megmeekermd.com. Today I have a question from Amber, who writes, Dear Dr. Meg, I have a question about kids and expectations with cleaning their bedrooms. I like a tidy house, and I like to teach my kids to pick up after themselves, including their bedrooms. I've heard the argument that I should let my kids' bedrooms be their own space to do with as they wish, meaning they can keep it messy and disorganized if that's their desire. But I have been encouraging my daughters, ages 11 and 8, to clean up their rooms regularly by giving them a deadline and a consequence for not having it done on time. Am I being too harsh? Should kids have a special space to keep clean or messy as they please? Amber, you are speaking to the heart of every single parent in America, because I think every one of us has struggled with a child or 2 or 3 who just doesn't want to keep their bedroom clean. Here are a couple of principles that I want to impress upon you. First, you own the home. You own the bedroom. You own the bed. You own the rug. You own everything hanging in the closet, and you own the curtains that are hanging on the windows. So you have every right to expect the inhabitants of that space that is yours to keep it in order. That said, it is important for kids to have their own private space that they can keep as they like. So the truth of the matter is, some kids are going to be very messy and disorganized. And if you're okay with that, that's okay. If you want them to keep it clean and you feel strongly about them making sure that their beds are made and their clothes are picked up and their clothes are hung up in their closet, by all means, you have the right to insist that your kids do that. Some parents don't want to argue with their kids, and they just want to choose their battles. And one of the battles they decide to surrender is a messy bedroom. But I would say, even if you're one of those parents who says to your kids, this is your room, you can keep it messy if you want, I'm just going to keep the door shut, I would have some boundaries and some rules. I would not allow any child to ruin things. I wouldn't allow food to stay in there for a long time. They can't wreck carpets. They can't tear things. They can't allow it to be so messy that things begin to disintegrate in the room. So having a disorganized room is one thing, but having a dirty room is another. And you as a parent have the right to decide how you want your child's room to be and how much energy you want to put into disciplining your child to keep the room that way. So are you being too harsh? Absolutely not. I personally think it's a good thing to teach daughters and sons how to keep a neat room no matter what their age. And it certainly at age 8 and even at age 4, kids can learn to pick up. Parents, I love answering your questions, so please keep sending them in to me. You can email your parenting questions to askmeg@megmeekermd.com. That's askmeg@megmeekermd.com. I'd like to thank my guest, Philip Rivers. What a wonderful conversation we had. Now let's recap my points to ponder. First, children define hero very differently than their fathers do. Second, never take your time with your family for granted. And 3, whatever you do with your children is magnified. So until next time, parents, remember, great kids are raised, not born.
Hey, this is Bobby, producer of Meg Meeker's Parenting Great Kids podcast. We hope you've enjoyed listening to episode 29, Being a Hero Dad. And thanks to you, Dr. Meg's Parenting Revolution has grown to over 500,000 downloads. You can like Dr. Meeker on Facebook and follow her on Twitter and Instagram at Meg Meeker MD. Just as a reminder, go to megmeekermd.com and sign up for her newsletter for giveaway opportunities and updates. And don't forget to share the podcast, write us a review, and click subscribe so you won't miss an episode.